What if Deku had a quirk called Hell's Gate? This is part 1 to the what if, and let's get into it. Where's my flame heart? Hades yelled to his guard. I'm so sorry. The prisoner escaped from his cell. The next thing the guard knew, he was being grabbed by the neck 9 feet into the air. Hades' fierce head with clear anger in his eyes leaned closer to the guard and face and whispered, how did this happen? The guard with clear fear in his eyes replied, I don't know. He did it with his quirk. I'm not sure. Putting him down, Hades turned around and yelled at the top of his lungs, so that all his troops could hear him with his menacing voice. Find this man now, or else. We skip to Izuku's dad running around the fiery pits of hell itself, with a bag glowing red in his hand. Huffing and puffing, the only thing going through his head was, I gotta get out of here, I got to escape. He suddenly heard Hades' voice from far away from the castle since he had made it quite far. Where is it? He yelled in his mind, clearly frustrated, but not wanting to make a scene and risk getting discovered. He was looking for the portal back to the mortal world, and what he had in his hand was the flame heart, a tier 5 item from Hades' treasury. You could visibly hear the gallons of sweat he was producing, and the hot item wrapped around his cloth was not making it any easier for him. Maybe I should just get rid of it. This creeping thought entered his head time and time again, but he knew he couldn't do that. See, this was the key to getting back at Hades for having him imprisoned in the underworld for millennia. He himself didn't even know how long he was under there for. He was gonna use this to scar Hades. That was his plan. Where's the portal? He yelled out loud, but getting cut off shortly by a yell out loud. 2 miles in a mysterious orange portal that covered 2 miles radius of the ground in the distance. A big smile came over his face. Finally, he thought. But yet again, as if in perfect time, he heard thousands of footsteps that resembled an army of elephants. There he is. Don't let him get away, or we're all dead. He heard a loud voice shout from behind him. It was our poor skeleton soldier general, and behind him millions of troops ready to fire. Surrender yourself now, and the worst you will get is a cut off arm, the general yelled. Come on, Shu, don't make this harder for me. That was his name in this world. Izuku's father would be known as Shu, and I will leave a cliffhanger on what happened in this battle, but it will be revealed later on to the series. So now I will summarize what happened in between the time skip of this and when Izuku was finally born. Shu was able to escape hell and return to the mortal world, and to his horror, he learned that he had been in hell for 3 generations. He learned how to function as a regular human while hiding the heart. He was eventually able to meet Inko as he lived on, and they pretty much fell in love, which resulted in them having a child. The catch here is that Inko actually had heart problems around this time, and the doctor who helped give birth to Izuku made it known that he would not survive a full day because he inherited his mother's problems, and at this age his body could not properly fight the disease, and the perks of being a child, I guess. Shu, having great love for his son and his wife, would sneak into the hospital late at night where no one was really posted inside of Izuku's room, and what he had in his hand was the flame heart. He would fuse it with his soul and pretty much give it to Izuku. He would fuse the heart with Izuku, which he already knew there was a risk, but he still continued anyways. After the process was done, Izuku started glowing brightly, and this would really radiate the whole entire room, alerting all the nurses and doctors from the facility to come in, rush in and check to make sure everything's okay. A male doctor could clearly be heard saying, "Oh my god, bruh, I don't get paid enough for this, bruh." As the female nurses would search around the room, making sure nothing was out of place, noticing that nobody was there, but Izuku was still glowing. After the many tests, it was found out that in fact Izuku had awakened his quirk at a very, very early age, which was around 1 in a million chance. Most kids that did this were able to become top tier heroes, or whatever they wanted. Example, business, finance, whatever they wanted to do, they would become very good at it. I wanted to make something known here, and that each and every single one of my Moedas will have a message or a life lesson at the very end of the series, so it is more enjoyable and relatable as a viewer to watch and experience this, so keep in tune. Over the years of Izuku growing up, his mother Inko eventually died from heart failure, but made it known to Izuku that he had to promise 2 things to her. Her last words would be 1, you have to have a normal life as a kid, and 2, that he would become a pro hero, something she was never able to do due to her heart problems. Izuku's relative, an old man, would adopt him and would accept the task of taking care of him and raising him. Once Izuku turned 10, he was efficient enough in his quirk that he could use it to pretty much use combat and situational, but first, let's really get to this point of the story. At this point of the story, Izuku's quirk would be called Super Jump. But that's not really his quirk, but I'm gonna just hold that off for later. Just watch the series. Izuku's quirk can, pretty much help him jump super high and create a force into the ground. So basically, he has legs on steroids, but they're not like Ida's quirk, but like, I don't know how to explain it. I will do an explanation in part 2 of when you actually see it in combat. After years of training with his uncle and isolated in the woods with only the gym becoming a pro hero keeping him going, Izuku was able to come up with different ways to utilize his quirk, such as, I said it before, in a fight or in a supportive manner. His grandfather always told him that he could be better than any single hero out here in the world, because if he just believes in himself, he can do anything. His grandpa himself was going to be called Grandpa Tom, and he actually moved in from his mom's side, from the American side of the family, because his mom's other side moved in America, and he only transferred to China just to take care of Deku, because he wanted to help Deku reach his dreams of becoming a pro hero or whatever he wanted to do in his life. So after years and years of keeping on training, once he was 13, he wanted to go explore, buy some groceries, and just take care of his family, get some drinks, some food for his grandfather, which was getting old, so he couldn't really leave the house. While walking to the supermarket, he would get some drinks and a bag of chips, and would decide to take a shortcut through the forest so he could reach, that's basically where he lives, the forest. Deku would stumble upon hearing grave sounds of someone getting beaten up, someone yelling, please, please help me, please. And then he could also hear kids laughing with loud explosions coming from inside the forest too. Deku would use his quirk, jump off a tree, zoom over there, and check out to see what's going on. You would see Bakugo beating up on some kid, because in this story, Bakugo didn't have anyone to pick on, so we have to find another victim. You can hear Bakugo's explosion in his hands. Kid, get up. Get up now. You think I'm weak? The kid that Bakugo and his friends were beating up, he was crying. Alright, Bakugo doesn't really change in this what if. He was crying, and he doesn't even know why he's getting beat up, because he just met Bakugo today. All he wanted to do was make friends since he was new to the area. Please don't hurt me. I did nothing wrong, the kid would say, looking at Bakugo, scared in his eyes, almost crying. Bakugo and his friends would look at each other and start laughing and start beating at them more. Deku, having the drive to become a pro hero in his heart, would say, this is where I start, this is the little steps I have to take to become a hero. Stop bothering him, he would yell out. Bakugo and his lackeys would turn around, stop laughing, and look at a weird kid that has groceries in his hand behind them. Who are you? I've never seen you here before, Bakugo would ask, punching his hand, making a loud explosion. I'm a hero, and I want you guys to stop bullying that poor kid. The kid would look up and say, finally I'm saved. But then he would see the kid trying to save him was around the same age as him and say, oh, here we go again. Maybe you're in the wrong place. Bakugo would yell out, and his friends also start laughing, saying, yeah, I think you're in the wrong place, buddy. Deku, not wasting any time, would activate his quirk, jump around, circle them, making a dust cloud around them, and pick them off one by one. Bang! You can hear Bakugo punching in the air, trying to hit Deku while he was moving around him. Stop hiding, bastard! Come fight me like a man! If you say so, Deku would say, and then stop running and just go straight forward towards Bakugo and kick him really hard in the chest. He would then switch his targets to his two friends, which had pretty much useless quirks, and also end up defeating them in the process. After he was done, and yes, they were unconscious, but after he was done, he would go to the kid and say, "You okay, kid?" The kid would be awed on how he was able to beat Katsuki Bakugo, the strongest kid in his class with his quirk, the most cocky, arrogant bastard. "I have to ask for his name," the kid would say in his mind. "Izuku, that's my name." "Wait, how did you know?" "I could just tell." Izuku would laugh and give the kid a drink that he bought for his grandpa for himself, and just keep on going. "Hey, grandfather, I'm home, but I only have chips. I kind of ran into an incident," he would say after he knocked on the door and went inside. "That's my child, always doing something." Izuku, taking off his clothes, would look at his grandfather and say, "So, when are we going to start preparing for the UA exams? Don't we have to go sign up or something?" And then Izuku's grandfather would look at him puzzled, saying, "We already signed up. I thought you remembered this." Izuku would scoff and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, it must have slipped my mind." And him and his grandfather would sit down, eat some food, and basically have a father-son bonding moment, since Izuku doesn't have a father anymore, but his grandfather took that place. Over the next 2 months, Izuku and his grandfather would not let up and would keep training. Also, yes, in this what if, Deku never met All Might because he doesn't really see a reason to. He never went to the school, so he wouldn't have a reason to take that shortcut and meet All Might. Yes, he did admire All Might a little bit, but not as much as he did in the original. He was not a simp for All Might. He wanted to become his own great hero and do everything he wanted to become his own hero. He didn't really look up to anybody but himself and his grandfather, and obviously his mother. He never really knew his father. Once it was time for the UA exam, his grandfather would get him fresh new clothes, whatever he wanted, and tell him to have a good luck. Deku thought this would be the end of things, but to his surprise, his grandfather was coming with him to show support and see how all the training they put in paid off. Izuku walking to the exams would be a little bit nervous, but he worked so hard all his life, so he knew he was ready for this moment. "Hope I pass," he said. He wouldn't trip in this part of the story because he already trained so much that he has his own confidence and wouldn't be nervous. Yes, he would bump into Uraraka and have a short conversation with her. It was something like, "Hey, how you doing? Are you ready for the exams too?" Uraraka would ask him. Izuku would say, "Yes, I'm new. I've never seen you around. I've never seen you around either." And they would both continue to their exams. Once he went into the exams, he would change into his exam clothes and get ready for whatever test they had. Izuku would pass the written test because even though he was in the woods and did not have the ability to study that much, he was quite naturally smart due to his mother's side. He did have a little inconvenience with having to remember the kid that beat up some other kid a couple months ago, and it was basically Bakugo, and Bakugo would say, "You're here." Izuku would ignore him and just keep going around his day, trying not to really get into anything with some loser like him. Once it was time for the combat part, Mr. Mike would basically explain that all they would be doing is a combat test. They have to destroy robots. Robots equals points. Points equals higher score. Higher scores get into UA. That's basically the simple version of everything. And Izuku, that's really much what he understood. And that's what he came here to do. Prove that even though his quirk might only be his legs, that he could actually make anything out of his quirk. "Let's get into this," he would yell. "Let's go." President Mike would tell them that they could all begin, and Izuku would rush into battle without fear in his eyes. And he would just get to it. Now, y'all boys already know Deku was going crazy with his quirk. He was taking everybody's points, and it got to the point where every other participant was pissed off at this dude. They would all have one thought going through their mind every time their point would get stolen. "Who is this kid? And why is he here?"
See, in this version is what if the UA exams are actually split into 3 different parts. The beginner part,
was for the
middle part, and the
advanced
people,
part for
everybody that's middle class,
one's for the easy
part,
mode basically.
Bakugo's also in the easy mode. I don't know why Bakugo just doing Bakugo. And for why Izuku was there, his grandfather, he didn't really know much what he was doing, so he just signed up for anything, and it just happened to be the easy part. Now, this is where the story gets interesting. Every single teacher in the building was talking about Izuku. Everyone in the middle rank test and even the high rank test, which had Momo, Todoroki, thinking like, who is out here getting more attention than me? I'm him. Like, who out here getting more attention than me? Ito would be notified early in the story. Every high class hero that was in New Way, everybody basically knew who Deku was. Even All Might was intrigued. He was still looking for a successor. He was thinking Mirio, but now that he see this kid in action with a quirk that's labeled Super Jump, he was super intrigued and really wanted to give Deku his quirk. But what's his name? That dude with the eye power, Hawkeye, whatever his name was, the one that gets into the future. He already said, nah, Mirio's the best choice. So All Might, this version has to listen to him. Now, Deku is going crazy in this exam. I promise you, he is using moves. Basically, the best way to describe Deku right now is a mixture of Sanji and Rock Lee. Any type of martial arts move you could think of, he was using it, and he was good at it. Midway through the test, like 20 minutes later, he heard a scream from off the distance, and well, surprise, it was Uraraka and his useless self. Uraraka was trapped under some rubble after using her quirk too much, and the 0.0 robot was still in this story, and it was really getting close to her, and it was really about to kill her. The teachers, they didn't do anything because they wanted to see what Deku had in store, because they felt like he could be the first person in the wild to destroy the 0.0 robot, and Deku was up to the task. He was not gonna back down from any challenge. Him and the 0.0 robot would stare off at each other for a couple seconds, then he would get to work. He would start moving in circles, creating whirlwinds that destroy the other miniature robots, like the 1-pointers, 10-pointers, and all that. And basically, he was really trying to destroy the 0.0 robot. He would leap into the air, do a 360, and say, "Final Destroyer." He would kick the 0.0 robot straight in his face and destroy the whole entire face. See, everybody knew Deku was going to destroy it, but they didn't think he would destroy it to this extent, because no one has really ever one-shotted the 0.0 robot besides All Might himself. Now, I'm going to leave this to be continued because I want you guys to come back. But when we continue with this series, we're going to be at the part where Deku actually goes to meet All Might himself, because All Might requests for a one-on-one conversation with this kid that he's never heard before, never seen him in any previous schools or anywhere on the news, and he wants to get to know more about him. See, will Deku fold, be nervous? No. But we're gonna see what Deku has to say about All Might, on why he's so passionate of doing what he's doing, how he got so strong, and really who he is. So stay tuned for part 2, because I love every single one of you. I'm sorry I've been gone for so long. I really been doing stuff, and let's get these subs up, let's get this money up so we can buy a better mic and just get into the stories. I'll see y'all later, and peace out.
I'm spending on my time like I got 2 different beaches. They speaking on my name like they know the life I'm living. I came up from the bottom, but they come from the trenches. I came from overseas, so you know that life was different. They speaking on my name like they know the life I'm living. My grandma's still blind, but I'm hoping she still hear me. Keep talking on that shit and they gon' know why you gon' miss it. 30 running on your mouth, but I know you in your feelings.